Thank you, Betty. So it's Christmas time. It's a great time to receive gifts, to give gifts. I'm sure some of you have children or grandchildren and you just love giving them that gift and seeing them tear that package open and be excited about what you've had to give them. And you may, in fact, also have been excited about gifts that you've been given. You don't open them quite so quickly, maybe you're careful as you do, but then they're unveiled and you find it's something that you've really desired. And you know the love with which it is given, and you are grateful. That's the positive and the beautiful thing about this season. But have you ever, when you got in this gift-giving season or at any time, have you ever pulled back just a little bit? Have you said, it's a little tight and I need this and I need that, so I'm gonna just pull back. I'm gonna shave off a little bit of what I might have given. I'm gonna pull back because I'm a little fearful, a little concerned that I might not have enough. Or maybe you've entirely bailed out. You had something that you regularly gave or someone whom you gifted regularly, and this season I'm just not going to do it. Somebody else will step up. They won't be without. I'm just going to protect myself, and I'm going to not do that this year. I'm going to bail out. Well, why do we do this? I think we do this from a spiritual point of view, from a concept of insufficiency, a belief that the lack that appears before our eyes, our physical eyes and our emotional eyes is real. That is the truth of things. But as we're going to see this morning, that is not the truth of things. Is there really an insufficiency, or is it maybe that we haven't tapped into what is available? We know that the divine, and we speak about this often, is an unlimited source, unlimited substance, unlimited supply. This resonates with us on one level. Our belief level may be growing on that, but it resonates with us that the divine, of whom we are an expression, indeed is characterized by this unlimited, infinite sense of source, supply, and substance. And perhaps we have a bit of reticence or a bit of resistance to this supply as well, because sometimes we just don't feel like we're worthy of it, that someone else may be more worthy, or that we haven't done enough to deserve the available supply that's there. Or maybe we just have a resistance because we have a tendency to sabotage the good that is the nature of the divine and the nature of the expression of the divine in us. So we must know and affirm the truth that we have plenty of good health available, plenty of good relationships available, and plenty of material abundance. It is, in fact, our rightful inheritance, ready for the claiming. Divine, all-encompassing sufficiency awaits our asking and our believing. I think we sometimes function on a Mother Hubbard syndrome, or under a Mother Hubbard syndrome. You know, Mother Hubbard, old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard and to get the poor dog a bone. When she got there, the cupboard was bare, and so the poor dog had none. I'm not sure that's a nursery rhyme that taught us the positive nature of what our situation is as created beings, created of the divine and co-creating with the divine. But poor Mother Hubbard, who went to the cupboard and found it bare, didn't in fact turn around, see the door behind her, and open it to find a pantry that was bulging. She only looked at the bare cupboard. So the question is, how do we get that pantry door open? A couple of things. First, I think we recognize the available supply. Sometimes we spend so much time thinking about something else, like lack or what we need or what we don't like, that we deny mental and emotional space for that goodness. In fact, we give mental and emotional space for ignorance and lack. You remember that revered Christmas literature by Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol? And here, I'm going to need somebody to get ready to unmute and tell me the answer to a question I've got here. This is your quiz for today. There were three ghosts, of course, the ghost of Christmas past and Christmas present and Christmas of yet to come, that visited Ebenezer Scrooge. You remember the story. And the ghost of Christmas present, perhaps you've seen it in a movie version, had two small individuals that were part of that visit of the ghost with Ebenezer Scrooge. And they were a very emaciated little boy and a very emaciated little girl. You remember how the ghost pulled his robe apart, and there were the emaciated children. Now, can anyone, this is trivia, tell me the names of those emaciated children? Go right ahead. If you know it, just unmute and tell me. Well, you would have stumped me on the trivia too, but as I reviewed the story again, I saw this and it really spoke to me. The children's name for the little boy was ignorance, and for the little girl, lack. I think it's so true, and I suspect that those really were reflecting to Ebenezer what was true of him. So we often are ignorant, maybe sometimes willingly ignorant, of the truth that there is an all-sufficiency available to us. We have that legacy, that supply. We are ignorant of that, or at least functionally ignorant of that. So that ignorance is there. And then also we just take and put sometimes most of our focus on what we lack, what we don't have, what we wish we could have, what we surely should have because somebody else does have it, and we focus on that lack. So in that, we deny mental and emotional space to the good that would come to us through ignorance and lack. We must then go ahead and dedicate that space to truth and to the truth of plenty that is our gift. We do that by growing our sufficiency consciousness. Of course, this is inner work, as we often speak. Anything that manifests in our world out in front of us comes from an inner work, an inner action, whether it is for good or whether it is for ill, and we get to choose that inner work. We get to culture that inner work. We get to grow ourselves and build our belief through that inner work. Of course, that reflects on prayer and meditation and time in the silence. It reflects on memories that we have of that state wherein we were happy, wherein we were fulfilled, where we had plenty. Remembering that is a positive way to culture that growth in belief of the truth of all goodness and of plenty. And then we also speak with friends and like-minded. Jean, you talked about like-minded people. We spend our time with like-minded people who can together with us affirm the truth of all good. And then, of course, we have an opportunity to read or to view media that shows us that truth over and over again. We affirm it over and over again. And as we do this, we begin to grow. We begin to develop our sufficiency consciousness. Not only do we recognize the available supply, we give, we share, we tithe, we bequeath, because as we have learned in our recent fall study, giving and receiving is a cycle. And when we participate in that cycle by giving, by giving out from ourselves to others, and even giving to ourselves, in that giving process, we put ourselves in that cycle to receive as well, and to actually know the benefits of the plenty that's available for us. So what do we do when we give? We make giving a part of our plan. Of course, we make a plan for what we're going to save and a plan for what we're going to spend, but why not a plan for what we give? Put ourselves in that cycle of giving and receiving. We give generously, of course, from our prosperity. Sometimes we're flush and we give out of that prosperity. And then sometimes we share from our faith in divine supply. It doesn't appear before our eyes. It's like Mother Hubbard's cupboard. It's bare or almost bare, but we give from our faith. It's not a matter of how much we give of ourselves or of our substance. Remember the story of, in the Christian scriptures, of the widow's mite. I like to think that this is a holiday story. It sort of seems like it to me. Everyone comes to the temple and there they are dropping coins into the receptacle, and we can hear the coins clink, and everyone is celebrating in that place that is their spiritual home, where they are spiritually enriched, and they bring these coins, this part of their substance, to give. Of course, the rich men do so prolifically, maybe perhaps making a show of their giving, or perhaps not. And they give out of their prosperity. Not sure if they have a lack consciousness and are holding back or not, but we do know that the story goes on to the widow who had virtually nothing, the widow who was probably oppressed by some of those rich men, the widow who had merely 2 mites. If we could translate it into our time, we might say she had only $1, and that was her last dollar. And she gave of that, and I like to think, though the story doesn't go on there, that she saw beyond that. In that faithful giving, there was all that she needed would be supplied for her. So I also like to think that the story carries on, and that as she gives in that faithful way, giving more than all of the others who gave much in terms of quantity or how much money they gave, she gave more than all of them. And I like to think that she was in that cycle of giving and receiving, and that the receiving was the other side of the cycle, and that she experienced that as well. Because I believe that is the law that is universal. That is the truth, that as we participate cheerfully, lovingly, openly, without reserve in giving, we also receive in like manner. So I think one more thing we do as we talk about sharing, tithing, bequeathing, giving, is we expand the giving by our giving of efforts, whatever that may be, a very physical kind of thing. We help someone with something. We assist in one way or another. I think we also give of ourselves. We give our presence. We give our listening ear. We give our heart to someone, and that gift, we expand that. And of course, of our material abundance. So we expand that by some of the steps we've talked about doing inner work to expand that ability to give, that Time, talent, and treasure is something we talk about. Same idea here. We expand our ability to give and our faith to do so for time, talent, and treasure. So I get down to how do I do that, which is always kind of the end of where I'm at. How do I observe the law of giving and receiving? Number one, you got these steps, you might want to write them down. I should post them someplace every time. I do my inner work in building my belief in truth, building a sufficiency consciousness. And we've spoken about how to do that in the quiet, in the silence, in prayer, in meditation, in reading, in connecting with people that support that, in affirming. I do my inner work in building my belief in the truth that we affirm. Number two, I put giving in my life plan. Of course, there are hugely rich philanthropists who give to the world and give back to the world, and we laud them for what they do. But what about you and I being a benefactor on a very small level, where we're at? Perhaps we will give more than some large donor of some point. So we become a benefactor by our own choosing. So I think we plan in other ways, and I want to reflect a little bit on my childhood to talk about this. I was the son of a Baptist minister. My father loved to garden. He had a huge vegetable garden always, and that garden was planted, and he cultivated and he tilled it. He planted the seeds, he harvested the crops. I got in on that too because I had to do a little work there. But the harvest was plentiful. And my mother engineered a preserving of those vegetables. And we went out and went to the fruit growers and got bushels of fruit to preserve. My mother felt like it was not a good year if she did not preserve 700 quarts of something, either by freezing or canning. And I'd go down in the cellar and I'd see those almost luminescent cans in the dim light of the cellar of all those vegetables and fruits, and open that chest freezer that was packed full of food. But the plan was not that we in our small family of 5 would eat all of those 700 quarts, but that we'd have some to give. There would be someone who was in need, someone who was hungry, somewhere along the way. I differ from my parents in a lot of things, but in this, I benefited from them. They chose to plan to give. So I put giving in my life plan. That's number 2. Number 3, I give generously, faithfully, cheerfully. Of course, we talk about generous giving, whether it's generous giving to Unity of Pace and generous giving to those in need, wherever that generous giving may be shown. But we often forget to give faithfully, with faith in the truth that we know, in our developing belief, and cheerfully, but not, and here's the other part of it, not sacrificially. I heard a lot about sacrificial giving when I was up, but I don't believe in it. Sacrificial focuses on lack. And I don't want to focus on lack, even the slightest bit. So we give generously, we give cheerfully, we give faithfully, but not sacrificially. I give as I am inspired to give. And then finally, if we didn't have this part of it, that cycle of giving and receiving wouldn't be continued. I receive graciously and thankfully. Have you ever said, oh, you shouldn't have, when somebody gives you something, or, oh, why don't you pass it on to somebody else? But what about a simple thank you for the gift, to receive graciously, to receive thankfully? Perhaps then to be spurred to turn around and gift and to stay gift ourselves and to stay in that cycle of giving and receiving. So at this holiday time, blessings to every one of you. May you have a merry and a happy and a satisfying Christmas. There is truly, the truth is, there is truly plenty to share, plenty to spare. The cupboard is not bare, the pantry is stocked. And as we share, we remain in the cycle of giving and receiving. And so it is. We move now into a time of quiet. Beautiful song again that Jen sings for us, and perhaps we sing along with her, muted though we are, because we can't get together on the time otherwise, but let's prepare for a time of silence and meditation together as we listen to